Hi there cherubs, thank you so much for spending some time with me on my channel. The last video I made was an update, it was a mishmash of different things. If you want to know about my trip to Glastonbury for my birthday, photos included, you can go and watch the last video I did if you haven't already. And one of the things I mentioned in that update video was that I am going to be doing a depth year. I have officially been bitten by the depth year bug. I'm not much of a joiner. I normally don't go in for challenges or, you know, anything like that. I don't really do tags very often. So yeah, I'm not really one to sort of to get involved. But as soon as I started hearing about this depth year and I started watching people's videos, I was like, hang on a second, this is making me tingle, this is making me fizzy, I need this is something I really want to do. I did mention in my update video that I was thinking of making a complete video about my depth year and what I'm planning on doing, and quite a few people in the comments mentioned that they would be interested in seeing that, so here I am doing that. I'm just going to be talking about what I plan to do and what I think about the concept of the depth year. And this is just as much for me really as for anyone else, because as I go through the depth year and as I approach the end of it, I want to be able to check in with what I thought at the beginning, what my impressions were and how my impressions may have changed. So I'm really interested in that. I like being able to look over your initial impressions and then returning to stuff that you wrote or that you said and being like, oh okay, well that wasn't how I thought, or that went differently than I imagined. So yeah, I'm going to come back to this video at the end of the journey and just have a look at what I thought and think about what I think then at the end of the journey. Just completely superfluous words. So many superfluous words forever. That's basically me in a goddamn nutshell. For quite a while now, I've been thinking about my spending habits, my relationship with consumerism, things that I may purchase that I don't necessarily need, and how I feel about the nature of purchasing or shopping habits that I may have. I've basically been thinking about my journey with stuff, and I've been watching this channel. The woman's channel name is Louise Poston, and I will link that channel down below, and she is coming to the end of a no-buy year, and I've been watching her journey with her no-buy year, and that's been really interesting for me. So I've known for a while that the terms no-buy and low-buy have been a thing that people have been dabbling with or thinking about, and in the case of Hannah Louise with her channel, she wanted to acknowledge that she had some unhealthy spending habits. She was a beauty addict, she was really into makeup palettes and all that kind of thing, and she wanted to rein in her spending on beauty and skincare and stuff like that. So she decided to have a replacement only no-buy year, meaning not buying any makeup, not buying any skincare, no beauty products or anything like that, unless it was something that she considered to be a staple that had run out, like for example toner or mascara. If she ran out of that during the year, she was allowed to rebuy, but she was only allowed to buy that. She wasn't allowed to put anything else in the basket at all. So as I've been watching her journey, because I find her channel really engaging, and even though I don't think I have a problem with purchasing beauty products, I think a lot of the information that she offers can be applied to other things aside from beauty products, and I just love the way she puts the info across. I've been thinking more and more about doing something with my 2019 where I could just really bring consciousness to what I purchase and money and just my relationship with the nature of things, and nothing was quite clicking in my mind. It was like something that I wanted to do, but a no-buy year wasn't quite clicking with me, and I suppose it might have been because it was missing that more psycho-spiritual aspect that I'm really into. So when I came across Jessica's video about her plan to do a depth year and her explanation of what a depth year is and how she found out about it, I was like, okay, this is actually right up my street. This might be the thing that I've been waiting for, and that might actually answer a lot of questions for me about the nature of my relationship with my stuff. I'm going to link below to Jessica's video about the depth year. There are tons of people in the witchy, pagan and spiritual kind of community now who have made their own videos about their own intentions for their depth year, and I'm going to explain to you now what a depth year is. A depth year is a year where you plan to invest your focus, your energy and your attention on the things you already have in your possession, and consciously avoid adding to those things in your possession. So it's not about getting new stuff and bringing new things in to whatever collections you have. It's about really zooming in on the things you already have and giving them your time and going deeper with that stuff rather than going wider by including lots of other stuff. The opposite of a depth year would be a width year, and that would be where maybe you know in your heart of hearts that you are too fixated on one particular thing, or you are really too zoomed in on one particular topic or theme. And so what you would want to do is a width year, which is where you go broader, you go wider, you spread your attention out over various different things. So although there are lots of people doing a depth year in 2019, you might be somebody that feels like you need to actually branch out and you need to bring more things in, and maybe you need to open yourself up to other deck imagery or other books or whatever. So for you it might be a width year that you want to do instead of a depth year. Now for me, the difference between a depth year and a no-buy year is really the mentality around it. So with a no-buy year or a low-buy year, that is definitely part of what a depth year entails. So with no buy and low buy, you basically would decide that you're going to not purchase any new things in various different categories that you select, that you know that you either already have an abundance of stuff from that category, or you know that you have an overspending problem with that category. To me, a depth year is where you're doing that to some degree, obviously, because that's the nature of the depth year, is that you're not going to be purchasing new things in various categories. But the added bonus of having a depth year is that there is a focus that is placed on really, truly investing in the things that you do have, in terms of the time you give them, the energy that you give them, the way that you value them, the gratitude that you feel for them. And it's really about getting real about what you already have and getting to grips with the fact that you have this abundance of stuff, some of which you may have been overlooking or not really appreciating in its fullness. And so it just has that added sort of focus to it. Anybody that's doing a low buy or a no buy will also have to have some characteristics of the depth year, I think, in order to stop them from making purchases. Because let's say, for example, that you decide that you're not going to purchase any new clothes for the whole year. You're going to have to start playing dress up and having those wardrobe explorations with the stuff that you do have. Otherwise, you're going to get tempted when the sales come along. You're going to get tempted if you walk past a thrift store and you're a massive thrifter. You're going to be tempted. So you're going to have to really lean into a deepening relationship with the clothes you already own. So essentially, I think there is a Venn diagram between no buy and low buy, and then depth year. And then I think there's a place where those two things definitely intersect. One reason that I really like the idea of trying out this whole depth year thing is because there is a Facebook group that is dedicated to it, and lots of other witches seem to be doing it. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about leaning into community a bit more and just, you know, connecting with people on this topic and exploring it with people, because I can be quite solitary. I can go quite solo quite often with things like this and just explore it myself, but I think it's going to be really nice to do it alongside other people. And I think I'm going to be sort of consistently interested in looking at other people's depth year videos and making depth year review videos myself. I just think it's a really good idea. I think that a lot of people in one way or another either need to address their consumerism, their relationship with their material goods, you know, something like that. I think a lot of people do recognise that they get some form of dopamine hit when they add things to cart and purchase new things and get the feeling of the packages coming, or get the feeling of coming back from the shop with new things. And I think it's really pertinent to recognise when that might have become something that is just not fulfilling, and it is consistently unfulfilling, and when things that you already own that you were so excited about have been overlooked and perhaps haven't been given the time that they should have been given by you. And that is not to say that I think everybody should be doing a depth year, and I want to get that straight, because I know people can get a little bit defensive sometimes when somebody comes along and says, oh, I'm giving this up, or I'm looking into this, and you know, it's a thing that a lot of people would benefit from looking into. I know someone who doesn't feel like they have issues in that area, or who isn't considering doing something like that, can sometimes get their back up about it. So I just want to be clear for the record, again, I do not think everybody should have to do a depth year. I'm not saying let's all unanimously decide we're going to do a depth year, but it is undoubtedly something that is becoming more of an open conversation, I think, in various different communities online and in our lives offline as well. I think people are increasingly talking about their relationship with material goods, and I do think that is somewhat connected with the conversation around environment environmentalism and environmental impact becoming more mainstream. And you know, I think again, it's a Venn diagram. These two things overlap, right? There's a bit in the middle where they play together quite beautifully. So the depth year is not super prescriptive. There's not a really sort of strong set of instructions that you have to follow. You can think about what's going to work for you. So I have thought about what's going to work for me. So first things first, I'm going to cut my depth year into two halves. So I'm going to do a quasi depth year in a way. I'm going to do a depth 6 months and then a review of how I feel and how it's going. And then I'm going to do another depth 6 months with any appropriate changes that I might want to bring in at that 6 month review mark. The reason I'm doing this is because for me, first of all, I do like to have my goals cut down into segments which feel less intimidating for me. I'm also somebody who does like to do regular reviews and check in and just see how things are going. For me, I feel like that's going to be much better than just setting a solid goal of 12 months. That feels a little bit intimidating for me for what I'm going to be attempting for my depth year. And I feel like just having that knowledge that I'm going to be checking in at the 6 month mark is going to be of real importance to me. So I'm going to set my rules for the first 6 months and they're going to be unshakable. I plan to ace the test, but then at the 6 month mark, I'm going to have a review, a reassessment, and I'll definitely let you guys in on how I feel about those first 6 months and how they've gone. So that's the first thing that I will say that's a little different to anything I've seen anybody say so far. I'm definitely going to be cutting it into two, and if I feel at the end of the first 6 months that it's not quite right or things need to change, I will definitely address that and make those changes. So I've got some of my depth year rules here that I have written out, and I'm going to let you guys in on them now. So I am not going to be buying any clothes or any books. I'm not going to be buying any makeup. I'm not going to buy any beauty products. I'm not going to be buying any magical tools. And I'm not going to be buying any stationery. I am going to be on a replacement only on any of the items in any of these categories that I run out of that I actually need. So for instance, I use a specific kind of pen when I do my writing. I'm going to let myself buy a 3-pack of those pens when I need more of those pens. What else would be an example? Yeah, so just like basic makeup products that I know I always use, you know, that I regularly need to repurchase like every 3 months or 4 months or whatever. I will be repurchasing those things, you know, and I'll have a list. I'll actually have a list written out of the things that are staples in each category. There's really nothing that is a staple in the stationery category that I'm going to need to rebuy apart from possibly pens. I have an abundance of everything else with stationery. I've got so many sets of cute novelty post-its that I haven't even like broken into yet. Just little bits and pieces that I've purchased over time, you know. I do not need to purchase more of anything. So it is going to be quite strict, that replacement only, because the list of items that I am allowed to replace is going to be small on all counts, really. I have an idea in my head of the things that I'm still going to allow myself to buy. Like I'm still going to allow myself to purchase experiences, whether they're connected to my witchy and spiritual life or not. So I'll be, you know, I can go to talks, I can go to see sites, I can go and do all that jazz. And when it comes to like readings and sessions that I may want to purchase, I'm absolutely still going to allow myself that. I'm still going to let myself have readings. In fact, taking away the ability to purchase magical tools, books, that kind of thing is definitely going to allow me to place a little bit more financial focus on having a reading or a session when I need it. And I think that's actually a really great thing. So I'm really happy that I've made that decision. So there are lots of people who have chosen to place decks into their depth year agenda. So lots of people are not going to be purchasing any decks for 2019. I've not decided to put decks into my depth year, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, I really do feel that I only purchase a deck when I'm very, very excited about it, and I know that it's going to be something that will very, very, very likely work in my collection, you know, and it's rare that I make a mistake on that. I'm very picky about the decks that I purchase already, so there really isn't any issue there, I don't feel, with me having an abundance of decks that I haven't connected with. I don't have as many decks as the average professional reader. I have a very small collection in comparison to a lot of professional readers, and my collection is building very slowly, and so that's something I don't feel I need to take off the agenda. But one of the things I will be looking at when I do my 6-month review in the middle of my depth year is whether or not spending on decks has gone up as a result of not being able to spend in other areas. And if that happens, then I will place a ban onto decks for the second half of 2019. I'm a professional reader. I'm sitting at my card slinging table all the time. I'm enjoying decks constantly. I get to use them and work with them very, very regularly. So I don't feel that there are decks that are gathering dust. I feel like I'm doing my level best to connect with decks, rotate them. You know, I do the reach for more basket already, so I'm very conscious of making sure that my decks are loved and used. So that's not a problem. The other thing is that I am sent decks, and I actually have a pile building up of decks that I'm yet to unbox. So I feel like I don't really want to focus on having a no deck year for my depth year, because you're going to be seeing unboxings from me, so it's going to feel a little bit weird and a little bit dubious to be like, okay, well, you're getting decks all the time, you're opening them quite regularly on the channel, and that's fair. I am. That is a part of my job. That is a part of what I do within my profession. So yeah, so I'm not going to be focusing on decks. I am delighted that I've made this decision when it comes to books, because I own a lot more books than I have time to read. I never just buy one book. I'm like a lot of bookworms. I always purchase a stack, and that has meant that I actually have more titles than I have time, and it's really important to me that I get through the things that I've already purchased that I'm excited about, instead of letting myself have that dopamine rush again and again but not actually having time to read enough. Makeup and beauty products and stuff I don't have that much of an issue with, but I'm putting it into the depth year anyway because I do want to play with what I have, and I am becoming more excited about working with colours and experimenting with makeup, so I'm just going to be using what I have. So I just want to make sure if I get the bug to get anything that I like the look of, that I'm on a depth year, so it's a no buy where makeup is concerned. Now clothing and accessories, it does include accessories, it does include like bags, jewellery, that kind of thing. That also is a really important part of my depth year. I express myself so much through how I dress. I love clothing, I collect vintage clothing, I collect certain kinds of accessories. I'm very into curating my wardrobe, expanding my wardrobe, enjoying colours, enjoying shapes and cuts. So it's going to be very weird for me to put all of that on hiatus for potentially 12 whole months. So that's going to be interesting. There's one thing that I'm going to allow myself. This is how extreme this is for me. It's like I've really thought it through. Well, it's not extreme, it's conscious. Let's say I'm doing this very consciously. There's one thing that I am allowed to buy myself in January, and it is a pair of boots. I need a new pair of boots. The pair of boots that I wear, my black boots that I wear all the time, I've had them for 10 years now, and they're just getting to that point. They're very well loved. They do need to be resold soon, but the nature of how they're wearing now means that I don't know if a resoling is going to last them 12 months. I do need a new pair of boots. The pair of boots that I have my eye on are the Dr. Martin Jadens, the vegan Jadens. They're not fucking cheap. I was going to buy them when they went on sale on Black Friday, but they're still over £100 even on sale. So, you know, but I want them. They're the boots I want. They will last me another 10 years. So I know they'll give me just as much life as the ones I currently have. And I like to get into a pair of boots. I don't like to buy different pairs of boots. I want that pair of boots, you know, that I go to festivals in. I go on holidays. I walk in them. I rave in them. So it's got to be the Jadens. So if they go on sale in January, I will allow myself to purchase them and only them in the January sale. So that's like a little caveat that I've got with myself there. Did anyone hear my neck crack then? I don't know if you could hear that on camera, but it was savage. During my depth year, I'm going to be really consciously enjoying what I have. I'm going to be decluttering, and that's going to be connected, another Venn diagram, that's going to be connected to my desire to go through things as I'm decluttering, as I'm sorting, as I'm thinking about things consciously, as I'm cleaning my apartment very thoroughly. I'm going to put my eyes on every single thing, and I'm really going to connect with it and think about it and think about the story of origin for how it appeared in my life. And I'm very excited about doing that over the course of 2019. I think that's going to be really important. I'm also very much connecting my depth year to my relationship with money and my relationship with saving. And I'm going to be really conscious about the fact that I'm definitely going to be saving money I would have spent in various different ways. I'm not a massive spender. I'm not hugely consumeristic. I don't have what I would consider to be an overspending problem in any of these areas I'm talking about. But I do have a problem with enjoying excess. So it's not like I'll spend money that I shouldn't really be spending or money that I don't really have. That's not it. But there's no necessity a lot of the time for buying the things I buy. Like books, for example. It's not necessary to get all of those books at once. You know what I mean? It's like I could write the title down and purchase it when I'm ready to read it. I could be much more sort of like slow, ethically, you know, slow about what I'm purchasing and why, rather than thinking it is a dopamine hit, it's a rush, and it's a feeling of like, if I buy it, then I'm going to read it, or if I buy it, then I plan to wear it and style it up. If I get it, then I will do this project. If I buy this piece of stationery, then it's a commitment that I am going to do this thing. And the reality is that is not always the case. That is not always the case. Purchasing something doesn't always mean you're going to read it or use it or play with it. And I think that's the thing I'm trying to break, or one of the things I'm trying to break, is this idea that buying it is a commitment to it, and that's why the buying of it is necessary right now, right at this time, when I don't necessarily need it and I've got other things I want to read first, or I've got other things I'd prefer to wear. It's silly, right? So that's one of my main reasons that the depth year I think is going to be awesome. And also it's just about going deeper into my studies with various things. Like I am such a magpie. You guys know I always call myself a magpie mystic or a mystical magpie. That's definitely something that would be on my merch. And you know, it's true. I am a magpie. I see shiny things, they glint, I want them. And it's not that I don't enjoy engrossing myself in them. It's not that I don't engross myself in them. It's just that, you know what, one thing at a time, just relax into something. There's no need to go all over the shop, all around the fucking houses, dedicating myself to so many things. And you know, it's really just about embracing the things I've got and going deeper with them before I decide I'm going to expand and go more widely with what I'm researching. Sorry, I'm switching from talking about books to talking about stationery to talking about clothing, but basically I feel the same way about all of these categories. Another thing I want to mention is that I am allowed to purchase things in any of these categories if they are for someone else. So I'm not giving up on present giving. Where friends are concerned, I will still try to give thoughtful presents and random gifts if I see things that I think they will like, but I do not think I'm going to have a problem with that. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to go up, you know, because I've stopped buying things for me. I just like to purchase things for people's birthdays. I'm a birthday oriented human, and it's nice for people to have things for their birthday if they are consciously purchased and they're thought about deeply. So I'm definitely still going to be allowing myself to purchase things that might be in my band category, but they are for somebody else's birthday or with somebody else in mind. A lot of people that have talked about their depth year plans have talked about the things that they intend to research, that they intend to study. So the decks that they want to go deeper with while they're not buying other decks, the books that they want to get into, and the things they want to research with those books. I'm leaving my plan totally open. I'm not going to set anything in stone where that's concerned. I've decided that I'm just going to surprise myself. I'm going to see what it is next year that I feel drawn to read about more, and I'm not going to set myself any plans. And I'm actually someone who does often set plans for what they're going to study in the new year, what they're going to look into more closely, and sometimes I'll do that on the new moon as well. I'll be like, okay, for the next moon cycle I'm really going to look into this, and there's varying degrees of success with that, you know. Sometimes I'll be really successful with it, and sometimes other things will draw me in more. You know, so, or I'll just feel like I didn't have the time I wanted to have, and I'll feel more disappointed than I will feel accomplished by my relationship with the plan that I've made. So for my depth year, it's totally open. I'm not going to give myself anything that I'm planning to read. You know, there is no very strict to be read. There are a pile of books that I'm going to allow myself to read in any order and just really enjoy getting into them. And I'm not going to have any strong plans for what I want to have achieved with regard to study by the end of the year. And I don't want to have any set plans with regard to anything else like that. I want to leave it pretty open. I feel like it's interesting. The whole concept of the depth year and my commitment to doing the depth year has taken away my desire to be very specific about what I'm going to be studying or what exactly I want to have learned or achieved. So that's interesting. I definitely want to have had some major progress with my savings by the end of 2019, and I want to have continue to reassess my relationship with money. It's one of my only big shadows, and there's still a lot of complexes around that, where I feel I've done so much healing and so much progression in other areas. There's always one sore spot, you know, where it's just a lot of shadow and it's very densely compacted, it's very tight in there, and you know, it's very low vibration. And I think where we can make a lot of headway in other areas of our lives, there are those 1 or 2 areas where it's like, oh, they're sticking points, and I know why that area is a sticking point for me, and I'm hoping the depth year is going to help me to really get in there and tinker with the machinery. So that's exciting, and I do definitely want to have made some significant progress with my savings and with my relationship with money. So that's something I'm going to be watching and focusing on as I'm doing the depth year. And every time I get the itch and the urge to break my vow to myself and stop my depth year, because I know there's going to be an itch, I know there's going to be many urges, I'm just going to get that money and put it in my savings account. It's basically going to be a case of, okay, if you are really tempted to spend £30 on this, or you know, whatever on this, you want to buy this vintage dress, you want to purchase these books, take that money and put it into savings. If you can afford to consider breaking your vow to yourself and breaking your depth year, then you can certainly afford to consider putting this money in your savings account. So I'm going to be having that word with myself whenever the urge arises. I believe that you can own many things and love those many things. I believe that you can have an abundance of different material objects and respect and enjoy the role that every single one of those objects plays in your life. For me, I'm always going to be more of a maximalist than a minimalist. I'm always going to enjoy having an abundance of things to play with, and I'm always going to enjoy being over the top. I don't believe less is more. I believe more is more, you know. And so I think that it's really about finding the kind of sweet spot for me between knowing that and also recognizing that that doesn't have to lead to me being thoughtless about my purchases, or in any way getting to the point where I do have to like more things than I can conceivably enjoy. You know, so for instance, I love collecting jewelry. I'm really interested in interesting pieces of jewelry, and I love magpieing for that shit. I love it when something just catches my eye. Like, so many people have sent amazing pieces of jewelry to my PO box, and it like, oh my god, like it's just like, it almost shows that that person has been like, she has got an eye for weird pieces, like, let me send her this, she will enjoy this. And it's like, I do, I will, I have, I thank you. I love my jewelry collection. It is huge. I love it, and I've got pieces in there that I've had for like 15 years, and it means a lot to me, you know. But at the same time, you know, I've got such an abundance of stuff, and there's only so many days in the year. Let me enjoy it more. Let me put it on more of a rotation, rather than finding that the rotation stretches and stretches because I've got new things. You know, and I would say I purchase a piece of jewelry, I would say once every 1 to 2 months. I will usually thrift it, usually always thrifted or vintage. I will have something new in my collection. So if you think about it, that's like, you know, 6 to 10 pieces a year new, when I've already got like a drawer full of the heavy, hard looking, you know, necklaces, the barbaric necklaces, as Anais Nin called them. And then I've got a drawer for the fine pieces, and I've got another box for the fine pieces. I've got a massive drawer full of bangles. I've got, you know, come on, like, I've got a wealth of things, and so it's really going to be about just enjoying those things and furthering my relationship with them, connecting with them more, remembering where I got them from, what the story was, like how they arrived into my life, and enjoying experimenting with connecting my accessories to my clothing. Like, to me, that's all a part of my witchy journey. I really feel like style is something that is so fucking important to me. Guys, honestly, I could make a whole series on it. I've had such a journey with clothing, and it's a very emotive subject for me, very emotive. There's just so much to it for me, and it's going to be nice to just stop for a minute and take a little breather, little 12-month breather, and just think. And it coincides, like, this idea that I'm going to put clothing into my depth year coincides with a conversation I was having with this amazing friend of mine about our style, because we were thrifting together in some amazing vintage shops. Oh my god, it was wicked. and we were just walking around trying things on, and we were talking about how we're both in a little bit of a weird style vortex at the moment, where we're not quite sure what exactly is going on. Like, we know what our key influences and references have been over time, but we're in this weird spot where it's like, is this still it, or is it moving? What's happening? And it was a really interesting conversation to have, and she's a costume designer, so it was fucking really interesting. And I was just buzzing by the end of that conversation. And then when the depth year idea came along, I was even more buzzing, because I was like, yes, you know, I can really connect these two things together. I can take it as an opportunity to press pause and think about what I've got and what it means, and if I still even like it, you know? I've always enjoyed indulging in material things without the purchase of the material things, you know? So every so often I do have a little wardrobe curation, or I play dress up, or I go through my books on the bookshelf and I just, I switch things so that I can see other titles at the front. There's a great deal of books on my bookshelf that I've read but I'm intending to reread, so I've got a bit of a reread list in my head as well. And that's going to be great, because those things keep getting pushed to the back, to the back, to the back, to sort of accommodate the new things I'm purchasing. And so, yeah, it's just really about enjoying the feeling of abundance without adding to that abundance needlessly. I know this is not going to resonate with everybody, because not everybody has an abundance of stuff, and not everybody is more of a maximalist than a minimalist, and not everybody wants to have lots of things around them. But I love things. I love knickknacks and objects, and I have a relationship with those things. I think of it in a very animistic kind of way. I'm on a journey with those things, especially clothes. And stationery as well, like books that I do projects in and things like that. You know, this Filofax is like, I've got it next to me right now. I wasn't planning on showing it. It's just next to me because it's my companion. I've got a spiritual relationship with this thing. You know, it's helped me so much in so many ways. Yeah, so, and this is my book where I do my video notes. Lots of my video notes go in here, so I can remember what the hell I need to say. And I've got a relationship with this. It's just, oh, this is very Jessica the Story Witch. How appropriate for something that she started, for a fire that she lit inside of me. Yeah, so I have these connections, emotional connections, and I know that not everybody can relate to that. And I was actually in my safe house the other day, my private Facebook group, and somebody in there said, it's weird to see people talking about this depth year stuff, because I've already been doing that. But it wasn't, I didn't have like a name for it, and there wasn't like a movement around it, and it's just something that I've been doing. And I said, it's something a lot of people have been doing. It's a way actually that some people just live their lives. Some people just live their lives like that. They don't need to have a depth year. They already, you know, don't want an excess of things if they're not planning on using those things for months. They already don't want to put things in their cart that they weren't planning on. Like, they're living a depth year. They're having a depth life, you know. But for lots of other people, myself included, it's not been about going deeper with the things I own all the time. Obviously, I'm going deeper with something, but I'm also acquiring. I'm also purchasing. That is undeniable. I just bought a bunch of books in Glastonbury. And I have a big to be read pile. You know, so this is going to be really interesting, really nurturing. I'm definitely going to get involved with the Facebook group. I'm definitely going to do videos throughout the year. I just think this is going to be an interesting thing to experiment with. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts on what my depth year is going to entail. And I would love to know down below your thoughts. I'm going to use the hashtag depth year. I believe that's a way that a lot of people are making sure that their stuff can be seen by others. And let's go on this journey. If you're doing a depth year as well, I'd love to know what your plans are, what you want it to look like and feel like for you. If you're not doing a depth year, you know, let me know what you think about this whole concept of the depth year, or why you're not doing it, or why you're not considering it, or why you did consider it but you decided against it. All of that jazz and more. Pop it down in the comments, honey bunnies. And as always, I love spending time with you here. It's always amazing. Thank you so much, and much love. Blessed be.